Hello, so we're now picking up from where we left off last time. This is the diagram we finished with last time. It looks a little bit messy, so unless you've watched the previous video, don't carry on with this one. Make sure you watch the one before. So for those of you that have watched the one before, what we've got here in the pair of diagrams side by side is a situation where the firm, which is the one on the right hand side of the pair, is able to make supernormal profits. And the supernormal profits, again, we covered last time, it's where the firm's receiving more money in revenue than it's paying in costs. And the area of the supernormal profits, you'll remember from last time, is the section that's coloured in purple. Only purple. Okay, so this is a really good position for the firm to be in because it's able to use that supernormal profits for a whole range of things, such as paying higher wages. The owner can take money out of the business. It can use it to invent new products and new marketing campaigns. A whole range of things that could be used for. However, one of the things that's special about perfect competition is that we say this can't happen for very long. This firm isn't going to be able to make supernormal profits for a long time because of a couple of the assumptions that we made right at the start. So the assumptions that we made at the start of this topic that prevent the firm making supernormal profits are I don't know what happened there, sorry about that, there's no barriers to entry. Okay, and also that the product is homogeneous. Now, both of these together are really important. The homogeneous product we've talked about already means that the customers don't mind where they get the products from. It's identical. They'll simply go wherever it's the cheapest. The effect of that is that the demand curve, the AR equals MR, is also the demand curve, is perfectly elastic for the individual firm. But the other one, the no barriers to entry, is what's important in stopping the firm being able to make supernormal profits, because we assume that there's good knowledge, all different firms know what's going on in this market and can see that firms are making supernormal profits. What is happening is that other firms will be looking for opportunities and they'll be able to see, this firm here is making quite a lot of supernormal profits. We're going to go and enter that market. There's no reason why we can't. We know how to make the product. There's no rules, there's no regulations saying that we can't do this. It doesn't cost lots and lots of money to build loads of shops, so we're going to have a go. So what I'm going to show you next is how we would use these diagrams to show this. Okay, now because the right hand diagram here is so full of information, I've got another pair lined up underneath here. So if you think about it, we've got a situation where the market is going to have an increase in firms. More firms are going to enter the market. So before I mark it on, have a think about how that's going to look. More firms enter the market. What we're going to see is obviously an increase in supply. And because there's going to be more output no matter what the price is, we're going to show that as a shift. Okay, so let's just make a note of that underneath. The market sees a shift to the right because more firms are coming in supply. Okay, so we have a shift to the right in supply. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit and show you how you would draw this diagram because I know where I want it to end up. So what I'm going to do is show a new supply curve, but I'm going to make sure it cuts demand and creates a new equilibrium at exactly this point. Okay, so in my head I know that's where I want my new supply curve to go. Okay, so let's see if I can achieve that. Right, it should be parallel, which that isn't a bad effort. That's pretty parallel. And that then becomes the new price. So we'll mark this onto the diagram. Okay, so that's the new market price. But we already know that the new market price is in fact going to be the same as the demand curve the individual firm operates in. Okay, so let me label this for you so we can see what's happening. We've got our new price here, P2, and we can see that the price, the market price, has been driven down because we've got our new supply curve S2, which is quite a long way to the right. Lots of firms have entered this market, and that's driven the market price down. We should be comfortable with that. And what we could also say is that the overall amount of products being made in this industry, in this market, has increased. Okay, that's our quantity axis, and remember the units are millions, so we've got a big increase in the total output of this market. Now, because the product is homogeneous, customers don't really mind where they get the products from. The demand curve stays horizontal or perfectly elastic. Okay, this individual firm has got no control over what price it charges. If it charges a higher price, it'll have no customers. If it charges a lower price, there's no point because it can sell its hundreds. Remember, the output in the individual firm is measured in hundreds of units. It can get rid of its hundreds of units at the market price, so there's no reason for it to charge a lower price. So, just remind ourselves, the firm will choose its profit maximizing output where the last one, marginal cost, costs as much to produce as it adds to revenue. If you're not sure about that, go back and watch one of the earlier videos. I've covered it in one of the earlier videos. So where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Now you can see that this actually is at the very lowest point of average cost for the firm. Okay, that happens where marginal cost cuts average cost, which is why I planned ahead and made sure that I drew my new supply market curve to give me that equilibrium when I took it across. Okay, and what we've also got is a fall for the firm in its level of output. So we've got quite a lot of stuff going on again here. We've got an increase overall in the market output level, a fall in the market price, which leads to a fall in the price firms individually can sell the product for, which leads to a decrease in the output for the individual firm. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up the page and make a note of those things. So the individual firm sees a fall in its sales, which is a bit odd, you might think, because there's lots and lots more being made, but that's because there's lots more new firms. Okay, demand curve is still perfectly elastic. So it has still got no control over its price. Okay, still perfectly elastic, the green demand curve. And the profit maximizing point level of output which is where MR equals MC. That happens at the lowest point of average cost. Which is also where marginal cost equals average cost, because again we've covered that in one of the earlier little videos. The lowest point of average cost has to be where those two things meet. So if we're happy with what's gone on, the final task is to think, well, overall, what's gone on with this firm's level of profit? Is it making supernormal profits anymore? What's going on? Well, if we use the same sort of logic as we did on the previous one, let's just go back up to the top of the page and look at the previous one. You can see we coloured in purple the area of revenue, and then in blue the area of costs. So let's do that again in this diagram. So I'm going to switch between my pens. I'm colouring in purple the area of revenue first of all, just to keep the colours constant. So the area of revenue is quantity multiplied by the price. So it's everywhere underneath the new demand curve. All right, so you can see the area of revenue is quite a lot smaller. It's still there though. Now we need to think, what about the area of costs? Well, we know that a firm is making Q2 output, and we know that the average cost per unit is P2 because it reads all the way across. So look what happens. We colour all that in blue, just like we did on the previous one, to try and keep it constant. What we've got now is that all our revenue, all our purple area, is being accounted for or eaten up, however you want to think of it, by the costs. So no longer do we have a situation where revenue is greater than costs. Now what we have is a situation where revenue is equal to costs. So we've got total revenue is now equal to total costs. And what that means is we have a situation called normal profits. That's an economic term. If you think of it in a business sense, if you've studied business studies before, you might think of it as being similar to break even. Our revenue is equal to costs. So this firm in the longer term isn't able to make supernormal profits. Its revenue now is equal to costs. Okay, it covers its costs, it won't shut down, but it isn't making supernormal profits. What we'll look at next in the next session is how these diagrams might change if firms left the market. Okay, but for the time being, there's quite a lot of information there. Make sure that you're comfortable with that. Obviously, send me an email if you need any help, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to college some point soon. Okay, thank you very much.